I would accept a motion to approve.
Motion to approve consent agenda.
Second.
Great, thank you. That's much better. Sorry.
There you go. I'll call the roll now. Catherine Vallon,
Yes.
Steve Browntree,
Yes.
Scott Papich,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Steve Carreau,
Yes.
Andrew Dewart,
Yes.
Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Barb Hart,
Yes?
Trustee Corbel. I don't know if she's joined us.
I
All
don't
right, thank you all.
Is Trustee Corvalin not going to be here this evening, or?
I did not hear that, but she's not on at this point, but maybe she'll pop on soon.
It's Miranda. It's my understanding she's out of town and potentially tied up.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Miranda.
Great, thank you. Are there any public comments on non-agenda items? I'm not sure. Oh, there I can see if there's any public on. I don't see anyone other than DDA and townsfolk. Hearing or seeing none, let's move on to the next agenda item, which is informational items. First, we have the chair report, and that is in the agenda. If anyone has any questions or comments, I can answer them for you. Otherwise, let's move on to the treasurer's report.
Nothing other than what's in the packet.
Great, thank you, Ron. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the treasurer's report? Hearing and seeing none. We have the April profit and loss statement.
Yes, and I apologize, that didn't upload and I didn't catch it in time.
Okay.
So I can send that out to the board, or I can put it in the May profit and loss. It's whatever everybody wants to do, but I apologize about that. And so I can send that out. I can answer any questions, or I'll just put it in the packet next month with April and May.
This is Scott. I would request that it be sent out separately, if possible, in the near future.
That's fine. That's fine. I will send that out.
Great, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Kate. And the executive director report. Kate, do you have anything to add to what you have put in the packet?
No, the big things that I want to pull out, I've already pulled out as a separate info item. So we'll just leave my report in there as is. Nothing to add. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And the town staff report, anything you want to pull out of that, Miranda?
Just actually want to just add a couple things. So first, I'm of course including all the staff reports now, so you have a robust grouping of the staff reports. But a couple of things. The town did receive the energy and mineral grant, which helps to fund a comprehensive plan. So we received $100,000 from DOLA, and then we'll match $100,000 for a total of $200,000. So currently working on the RFP to give to the board on July 11th for approval. But pretty exciting that we can start our comprehensive plan update here pretty soon. The other thing is the multimodal transportation plan that we're working on through a grant we got through CDOT. We have selected a contractor, Fear and Peers, and they will kind of do a kickoff meeting, but I know they'll come to the DDA for some feedback on transportation, multimodal transportation throughout town. So I'll have that going on. And then really just a friendly reminder, if you haven't had a chance to complete the housing needs assessment survey, whether it's the interactive map or the survey itself, I would ask that you do that. We will probably close that survey in the next 2 weeks. Oh, and one other thing, we have a public engagement town hall from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. right before the Board of Trustees meeting on the 20th. And the purpose of that is to really just discuss ways in which we can enhance our public engagement and outreach, as well as talk about some of those items that are currently on people's minds, from everything from housing to transportation to annexation and potentially like home rule versus statutory town discussion. So would encourage people to join us either in person or virtually from 6 to 8 next Tuesday, the 20th.
Great,
And those
thank
are-
you,
those are my
Maria. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the town report? Hearing and seeing none. I believe we have an update from Judy, but I don't see Judy online. I did speak with her last week.
It's Miranda. Judy's in the room with me.
Yeah.
So,
Great, yay, awesome.
all right, I'll
Go
turn
for it,
on
Judy.
the video too.
Right. Okay, I'm here to give an update on the flowers, so I'll start there with the flowers. Last Friday, we had all the 13 containers planted, the same ones that were planted last year. So all the ones that were last year are now planted, plus we have 7 new beds. The traffic circle got like 34 new perennials and a couple flats of annuals. The 2 beds by the liquor store are now planted with a bunch of perennials and annuals. I planted the stop sign bed that's there by the bagel shop. So we've got another flower bed there. We have 2 new flower beds going into the entry of B&F. We had the 19-inch round containers, and now just below that, there's 2 more perennial beds planted. And tomorrow I'll plant a barrel in front of on First Street, in front of Wings of Lace. So that one will go in. So still to come, the bridge, pedestrian bridge, will be completed in a couple weeks, I suppose, once the siding is up and the new boxes are put on. So those will get planted. Hannah, who's given us the flowers in the past, is she's just waiting for the word. So we have those flowers ready to get here, and they'll get planted. Also, the town is going to move for us the 3 big containers, flower pot containers that are on the north side of the feed store. So those 3, Adam and Abby are going to keep one located around there, and then the 2 others will get moved over to First Street. So we'll have those new flowers also. In addition to the flowers, I've had time to just do some weeding around town, the welcome sign as you're coming into town, the bucket bed that's next to the Mountain Forum for Peace bed has been all weeded, and I'll continue to do that throughout the summer. We got the Veterans Memorial bed all planted, and I'm caring for that. And let's see. Well, it's been really nice too working with town. I think we're developing a good relationship with Nikki and her crew, and they've helped when I've asked for them to fix a wall or something, and I've helped them do some weeding. So building relationships. 2 more little things. We have received a water cart, and I've taken that out, and it's awesome. It cuts back the amount of time that I'm going to spend watering considerably. So that was a good purchase. And other than that, we're just staying within the budget. Everything that's for flowers. After the hailstorm down in Boulder a couple days ago, I know I was like, what do we do? Oh my gosh, what do we do if it hits here? So anyway, we do have a couple thousand left in the flower budget. So we should be able to take care of it if that happens too. And I think that's about it.
Great, thank you so much, Judy. It was
Sure.
nice to see you about town planting this week.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, I tell you, those greenhouse ladies were amazing. They came and they planted all the pots, and then in addition, they even helped out with 2 of the perennial beds, which they were not even scheduled to do. So they really like our account, Nederland's account. They said it's their favorite account. So they gave us a couple $100 of extra flowers. Yeah, they helped prep that bed. And
Wow.
yeah, so we have a good relationship with the greenhouse also.
Incredible.
Yeah,
Awesome. Thank you.
sure. Thank you.
Next, if nobody has any questions or comments for Judy, we have the Big Springs final paving, and I'm guessing that might be Andrew.
So they're working on getting that scheduled. I don't know if Andrew knows more about that, but with the weather and everything, it's just been hard to get that down. But Andrew might have more information on that. But I know that there's communication about getting that scheduled.
Great, thank you. Andrew, do you know anything beyond that? Oop.
Andrew, if you're talking, we can't hear you.
Yeah. It's hard because all the cameras are off, which helps because the internet doesn't work.
No, sometimes he said I wonder if something's going on. We can come
Sorry
back.
about that.
Oh, there he
There
is.
you are.
There you go.
Big Springs.
Yes. Do you have an
So-
update on when they might get that scheduled?
Well, I know they've been just waiting for it to dry out.
Yeah.
And yeah, I apologize. I was just grabbing some food from
Oh, no.
the kitchen, but I think with the cold temperatures and the weather, they haven't really had an opportunity to get up there. But the last communique was just as it dried out, they would look at their schedule. So I have a feeling we're still a couple weeks out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Andrew. But this summer, which is exciting to get.
Yes,
wrapped
this
up.
summer. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Committee. We don't have anything going on right now. Let's move on to performance space. Andrew, do you have updates for that? Or Kate?
There's a plan that, yes, we do. So Nathan of JVA emailed us a plan, which we can send out, or Kate, if you're willing to send that to all the board members. And I mean, I'm happy to do a share screen and present on it a little bit. But basically, as we know, most, if not all of the land in that area is within the floodplain. And, Nathan does a pretty good job of trying to make it sound like there's, certain things that could be pulled off, but in reality, you can't, there's only so much you can do as far as so there's language. I think the best thing to do is for everyone to read what is in Nathan's report and see what what you guys think. And then, we could circle back at the next meeting, but let me just pull this up real quick.
And I just sent the email out to the full board.
Okay. So, kind of the summary, it talks a lot about base flood elevation, and just I can give you guys kind of the quick overview of is that anything that's built within this base flood elevation, basically you can't really, when you build a house that's in the floodplain, for example, you have to elevate the home 2 feet above base flood elevation. And you can't really have any utilities, electrical, such and such within, functioning things within that area less than 2 feet above base flood elevation. And then anything that you put in there has to have, allow free passage of water back and forth. So in a house, if you have a foundation built in this floodplain area, you would need to have flood vents that can open and close and allow, hydrostatic pressure not to build up. In this case, you could pull off like a tent style. There's some photos in there that Nathan said of like feasible. I can, if you let me know if you want me to share screen, guys. I'm happy to do that and kind of point to some of this. But in fact, let me do that right now. So are you seeing this up on the screen?
Yeah, it's starting to share. It's
Yep.
Starting
thinking.
to share.
It's thinking.
Okay.
There it is.
There we go.
There it is. So, you can get away with these kind of covered. Well, first on the left, this shows the area of the floodplain. That blue line is the 100-year floodplain. So anything, developed in that area would need to be 2 feet above it if you were going to try and like build a structure, let's say. Or with these pavilion structures that he's got shown, and we can dive more into this and talk more with Nathan. I don't want you to, take every word for it in case I'm mistaken, but I've built homes in the floodplain before, and I'm familiar with the regulations. Is that you really need to kind of just have things that allow water to go, around or through whatever you're developing in the floodplain. And, granted, on this map, the stage area is just outside of the floodplain, but also you can't really you can't build up grade a lot in that floodplain. Anything you add, you need to take away. It needs to be like a net zero, because they're, thinking that water's coming in and out. You've got to imagine that water, you're trying to not restrict water or build a dam, so to speak. So the grade is kind of going down towards Barker Reservoir. It's not necessarily ideal. And then the bathrooms that are penciled in there are kind of, I think, further away than what some previous folks who'd been involved in where the power panel was located thought. But so certainly there's probably a way to get a structure over a concrete pad and some restrooms adjacent to it. I don't think there's really a whole lot of meaningful stuff that can be done in the area that's blue, short of just basic grading. But that's kind of there's a lot to a couple pages to read with Nathan. But I think at next meeting we could talk about what are everyone's thoughts, and to continue this, how to get this dialogue further along, and or what are towns goals, our goals. I think as far as, is this, is development here feasible, some type of feasibility study. I know Scott and I had discussed that a while back, as far as how to make sure that this is something that, whether or not it can be done is one thing, and whether or not, how would this performance space be administered, who would run it, how would where would the funds go, etc. So anyways, I think that's what I've got on the performance space right now. But we've got some stuff from JVA, which is great because we didn't have anything before. We've got the boundaries, and we've got the language in the other document that Nathan sent, if you guys want to read through that at your convenience, which talks about what happens, and kind of make some basic recommendations to get people thinking about things. So that's that.
Hey, Andrew, on that diagram that you just had up a minute ago,
Yeah.
could you maybe wave your cursor over the area that the group had been up to this point, imagining that this performance space could possibly go?
Yeah, let me do that real quick. Sorry, I'm trying to get to the right meeting there. Hopefully that has the right share window. Is that
There it
working?
goes. Yeah, it's
There
working,
we go.
Andrew. Thank you.
Okay. So let me blow this up. Can you see my cursor here, Scott?
Yeah.
So the thought was that there would be a stage area here where this is kind of marked, 20 by 30 stage area.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in this outer kind of baseball field type scenario shape, you know, diamond, you'd have build it up and have elevated. You know, the problem with this is that grade is highest, obviously, at the stage area, and then it slopes away from the stage. So the you know, the more people that you've got backing up, they're starting to look at the back of people's heads. And you know, it's not it's not a huge grade change, but ideally you'd want this as flat as possible. So, you know, there may be some ability to do very limited grading in this area. I don't want to speak necessarily to that, but basically the restroom group was supposed to be, you know, this is information that I think I heard from Chris Perret when they had run the power down. There's an existing or a new like utility electrical room kind of right about here.
Mhm.
Excuse me. And that is supposed to serve, you know, whatever the future performance space area, as well as power for the restrooms. So it was thought that the restrooms could be here because that's kind of adjacent to and out of the way of Gercio Field. Nathan's showed the restrooms more closer in Gercio Field, which he just kind of did this on his own. But you know, it's possible the restrooms could be somewhere in here. And I mean, you know, it's not that you couldn't pull it off. You could have a kind of a nice tall privacy fence along here. Access, in theory, would want to come from here. There is an undeveloped street that has never been built. I want to say it's a continuation of Second Street or Third Street, and I believe it's either just south or just north of the. No, I think it's just south of the propane. So there's technically, I think, a street here now. Not that I'm suggesting developing that, but it makes the most sense for, you know, vehicles to come in. There could be a parking area here. It was thought, you know, a nice fence could go at least this way, and I think not necessarily it could be constructed in such a way to have allow for water to get under it, just a private like a visual screening from the treatment plant. But you know, this once if we could only get rid of the propane area and really freely be able to mess with grade in here, you know, it'd be a little more. You know, not to say it isn't doable now, but the things that are kind of, you know, to answer your question directly, Scott, the thought was a stage would go here, and basically some type of amphitheater, you know, or seating area would go out here.
Yeah.
Privacy screen along here, and you know, a restroom somewhere either here or here, because there's power right here. But the big thing being that really for loading and unloading, you want a truck to be able to back up to a concrete pad and unload equipment, you know, speakers, gear, musicians, etc., and drive away without getting bogged down in dirt. So that this would be maybe a recycled asphalt drive with a concrete pad, and also budget to keep things as minimal as possible. You know, limited concrete pad next to existing electrical, and you know, then your restroom, your covering, and your. I mean, this is, you know, relatively affordable in the grand scheme of things. If you're talking about a kind of a band shell type, you know, awning, and then a small restroom group like this, it's just, you the site looks a little rough right now, but that's the whole purpose of this endeavor, is to see what can work. And Nathan does think that, a restroom group and a stage like one of these two, or one of these several different stages. And I think this top right is one that might be, I want to say Winter Park, or I don't remember exactly which mountain town, but I think these are all just renderings, but there's one that's not too far away from us that's very similar to what we're looking at in these structures. So any other questions?
Well, you and I had talked months and months ago about asking a lot of kind of hard questions about this whole project and how it really works out and how it really gets used and what gets done with it. And I think that would still be worth doing sometime in the near future.
Yeah, I think maybe between now and the next meeting, Scott, if you and I want to take, I'd be happy to, meet with you, or a phone conference, and we could kind of
Yeah.
jot down some questions to send out in the next packet to get people thinking about what is the, all of those questions.
Cool. Yeah, I can do that with you.
Okay, great. Well, anyone else have any other questions on performance space?
Andrew, I have a question. When we
Yeah.
originally talked about the performance space, we talked about two different spaces. And one we talked about was the space you're talking about, and the other one was Gersio Field.
Mhm.
And I keep going back to Gersio Field being the obvious choice for having a performance space because NedFest and other events have already been held there. And I don't know what it would take to also get that surveyed, but I feel like the general idea is that we want to have a performance space that can accommodate events in Nederland, and this smaller performance space that might flood, which we know floods from several events being held there, is not the best case scenario. So can we discuss the idea of looking at Gersio Field, which was originally designated as the performance space in town, and what is the next step to include that in the process?
Yeah, Barb, I mean, I asked Nathan, and the flood boundary does not, Gersio Field is totally out of the flood boundary. I see a hand up there. If that's Miranda, I mean, Barb, just to answer, I think it's political. I don't know any other reason why, but there's some forces at work. I don't know exactly who or what, that I've heard don't want the performance space at Gersio Field. But Miranda, do you want to chime in?
Yeah, obviously the Gersho Field is a part of Barker Meadow Parks, which is a GoCo grant. And so basically you'd be changing the scope from what was originally submitted for grant funding to something different. So I guess, and so I'm not saying no, but I feel like it's a two-part. I think it's, please don't evaluate, my ask would be you don't evaluate something with JVA until you've talked to Nikki. I think it's important to start with her. And then my other thing is we really need to find out from our funders what impact that could have, if any, on that grant. I don't want to be in a place where we're not responsible for paying it back because we've changed the scope of work. So I just think if it's possible to schedule that time with Nikki, and then we'll do a little GoCo research. But my ask would be you don't move full steam ahead without consulting the department that oversees these assets.
Understandable. Yeah, we can reach out to Nikki. I mean, I think it would be worth at least the ask.
Yes.
Basic looking into, Miranda, like you said, the GoCo grant, if that's something that's not, I mean, I know there's always plenty of work to do in town, but if since the performance space is would be a valuable community development, where that happens also being feasible, and if there's funds and improvements that could happen to Gersio Field, including a bathroom group and power, and without affecting the funding, I think that's worth certainly looking into, in my opinion.
I would love to see us look at that because originally the power was not in the space it now is, which town did off the grid of where we originally had it located, and the DDA paid for that. And I would like to see, obviously the town is planting and spraying Gercio Field with grass. That's wonderful, but I do think it is the most logical location to have large events, including Ned Fest, Jazz Wine Fest, Farmers Market down the road. I don't think that it is feasible to have it in this little side field that might flood when we have this beautiful field that was originally planned for a performance space. I think that is an ongoing question of why we're not looking at that as the future of a performance space for the town of Nederland, and how it got to where it is without going through the processes, including in the DDA having a voice in the process when it really seems like the grant was done and ProSab, moved forward without talking to all the boards, which is a requirement of the town code. So I would like to see it being an ongoing conversation of where would be the best space for this. And I've been asking this for over 2 years as things have been done without having the town process with other boards involved. And we're one of them. So I think that's a legitimate question that needs to be brought forward to the town and to all of the boards. Why are we not working together?
Yeah, I agree.
Thanks, Andrew. Does anyone have any other questions or comments on the performance space?
Can I just ask, I mean, obviously I'll bring it up to Nikki, but am I safe to assume that Andrew, you'll also reach out to Nikki directly to sit down
Yeah.
with her? Okay,
Yeah, I will reach out to Nikki directly.
cool. And I'll put it on my agenda with her as well.
Okay. Thank you, Miranda.
Well, I would like to understand this, that can we put a slab of concrete on the ground and then put a pavilion type cover over it as long as it's 2 feet above the slab? I presume you gotta have
Yeah,
some sort of.
technically, you could build something like that to the east in the floodplain. The issue with that becomes like power and utilities, which is still doable, but you need to really have all of your infrastructure 2 feet above base flood elevation. So things go just
So
up
you're saying
higher.
that you couldn't lay power lines underground?
No,
in
you
the-
can. You can. It's just the connections and terminations and where people are going to be plugging into those things has to all be above flood elevation.
Oh, I don't see that. It's a problem then.
Yeah. No, but you could do, but then the stage would, we've also heard feedback from, and again, I'm happy to talk with each, board members offline after this, but it was desirable to not have the stage to the east because then that would project music back to the town. And there was I was getting some, you know, feedback initially that things should face, the music should be projected facing east. So it's going out over the reservoir. But honestly, that could be just as bothersome for people with homes on Big Springs because the sound travels so good over water. So, I mean, I think it would be doable to have the amphitheater or a band shell could go to the east, and then you could have seating to the west. So that's it's all further things these would be great questions to flesh out for another round with JVA, because this was just their preliminary. I think out of $8,000, this is probably represents 1,500 of it approximately. I don't know exactly, but I know it's not a whole lot.
Andrew, can I jump in? So yeah, that
Mhm.
was my intent, was that we would all meet as a committee first, and then we can follow up with JVA, and then we can talk with Scott, and kind of start working it that way, so that we can put together a good discussion item to bring to the board, since we just we got all this information. And I just wanted us all to meet, especially since I don't even think Tanya's gotten a look on this, and Tanya's the other committee member from performance space. So over this next month, I would love for us all to put our heads together and get some of these things, get some of these questions on paper so that we can keep following up and build a good agenda item for our next meeting.
Sounds good. Kate, do you want to reach out to Nikki then? Can you do that?
Yes, yeah, and that's what I was going to say. So Andrew, you're going to get a big email from me in the morning, but just we'll work it that way, and I'll loop Nikki into. I'm happy to loop her in, but we'll follow up on that and bring it back to everyone. But I'm glad you all can see what was initially received, and so if you while you're looking at that, something comes up to you, please email Andrew and myself so that we can make sure that we get all these questions together. So please do feel free to go through, even though it is, kind of the first draft that they've given us, please feel free to review it just like we are and send any questions.
Thanks, Kate.
Great, thank you, Kate. Does anyone have any other questions or comments on performance space? I apologize, it's hailing very hard here out in mid-Gilpin, so if you can't hear me, that's why. The next item is public art, and it says we'll be given verbally. If Danielle or Kate want to give that update, please.
Hi, this is Danielle. I would like to give an update on public art, and then we have an item later on tonight about the mural. So the covered bridge is coming along. I talked to Mike Foster. They put the new roof on and they're going to do the siding and the flower boxes, and then he will have Kevin's artwork finished and reinstalled, and he's writing up information for a plaque also. The picnic tables project is coming along beautifully. Carrie's been meeting with our art director for the project, Casey Pyle, and they have met several times and met with the groups of artists. So those are going to turn out excellent. We're looking forward to seeing more about it. The mural tonight, we have a preliminary to look at. It sounds like it's going to be housed in the meantime over at the community center. So we did go ahead and change the format for the mural. Instead of going directly onto the building because of logistics with scaffolding and renting equipment and having things set up, we are going to do panels, and there will be 6 panels of 8 foot by 4 foot for a total of 8 foot by 24 foot. And that changed the square footage and the cost. So the original mural was going to be $9,225, and we are now going to be paying $6,540 for it. That's saving us $2,685. And the new write-up does include that we will be purchasing as a committee panels and helping to install them also. So I am in negotiation with some local companies that will work within our budget and donate time and experience if we go over budget to get the project at cost for less than what we originally thought. And later on today, we will look at the preliminaries and see if you guys approve and we can move forward with it. There's also the mural walk we're having July 15th. And Art at the Center at the community center wanted to jump in on the opportunity to have a town event for art, and a couple other places wanted to jump in also. So we talked to Peter over at Town Hall to see if the businesses here in town want to be involved in showing artwork, overall playing music, and just being involved with the arts and having a town event. So look for an email there. The mural walk itself through the DDA will have a map of where the murals are and a reception to meet the artists that are available. So we're moving along with this event also. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Now, I wonder if all of the businesses are being reached individually to participate in the event, since as a business, we haven't heard of it. The only way I heard of it was through Carrie Evans, who happened to be at the train cars when I was there. So how are each business being reached to see if they want to participate in some way, as we do with our Fourth Friday Art Walk at the shopping center? How is everyone being included?
So I was also concerned about everybody being included because once a few people showed interest, I realized my bandwidth wasn't great enough to go and talk to each business. One of the thoughts was to publish it in the paper, and when we talked to Peter, he said that he was able to email everyone. So I'm hoping that the emails did go out. I saw one in my inbox this evening. Hopefully it's there for you too. If not, I can touch base with him, and we can also see if further reach is needed to make sure that we are being fair and inclusive.
And Danielle, it's Miranda. Peter's actually on, and that message did go out today, but I just want to clarify, it goes out to our business listserv, which includes obviously businesses that have business licenses. Now, we hope that if you're operating in the DDA district, you have a business license, but you may have kind of independent artists who don't have a license who would have not received that email. So I do agree you need to have some additional outreach, but that listserv, I think, has over 200 people on it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Miranda. And how do we make sure that the DDA, who is actually funding this project, is kind of featured instead of all of these other businesses that might want to participate, when it's really supposed to be a DDA event showcasing the murals?
So that was also a concern of mine, Barb, and I talked to the other committees and a few businesses that were involved. So the Nederland Day of Art is separate from the DDA mural walk because I wanted to be sure I wasn't doing things improperly. And the map for the mural walk will be separate, and it will have an image of one of the murals we already have and be dedicated for the DDA's Nederland Public Art. And it just happens that the other events are happening the same day to benefit from people walking around and looking for things that are art related to do in town that day.
Great, thanks, Danielle. That helps a lot.
Great, you're welcome. Any other questions? Awesome, I look forward to reviewing the mural with you guys. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Danielle. Great, thank you. The next agenda item is wayfinding, and it says it will be given verbally.
I think Steve Crow is on as well. But next Wednesday, we have a day scheduled to go around and look at sites with John. And hopefully, there you go. Steve jumped on. I don't know if you want to jump in, Steve.
Steve, you're welcome to give an update. I think it's pretty simple, right? Because we're just going to meet with John and Town and
Yeah.
potentially a couple other folks to check the sign locations and verify them and all that.
Yep. And I think after next Wednesday, hopefully that's like we get some traction and can really get things moving once we can really verify which sites and all that. So I think next week will be a productive day. Hopefully the weather plays along.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Steve. And Steve and Miranda, is that being publicly noticed so that more of us can attend that meeting if there are town people and DDA attending?
It was my understanding that it was like a specific group of people and not anyone can add in, but maybe I didn't fully understand that piece.
Yeah, no, this is just to what we've been talking about, to review the site locations and get those specifics, have him take the pictures. It was not meant to be a public meeting because all of these are the same information in places that we all approved and already talked about. So it's not like anything new would be popping up there like that, unless something he gets from a sign location, and then we would bring it back to the board. So I don't think that there would be any reason to make it a public meeting. But
Are
if
there
that's what the
BOT
board
members?
wants, I guess. I don't know. I feel like that could make it. I don't know. We can do that.
Are there BOT members attending? Because there are already 2 DDA members, and I'm assuming Miranda
I don't think
attending.
there's any BOT members. It's really just a site visit with him. It's more about getting town staff, CDOT, and everybody on the same page and making sure that we're adhering to all the requirements per the request of the board. So it's more a work meeting. I guess I imagine it as more than something that would be a typical public meeting, I guess, in my mind. But if there's a desire to go that way, we could certainly notice it.
I'd like to just chime in that, you know, if we're not discussing new topics and all that, and all we're doing is trying to nail down what we've already discussed, I'd rather not have it be publicly noticed, because we don't want like a whole gang of people and general public or anybody.
Well,
You know,
if
walking
Barb
around.
decides to come, that's 3 people, so it has to be a public meeting.
Correct.
Well,
That's
that's
the-
my question. If there are going to be any BOT members at all on
No.
the walk,
No.
then I would like to go on it as well. But if not, then it's not publicly noticed. But these guys are flying in from Florida, which is kind of a big deal, to go on this walkabout. And it might be nice if the public had some input while they're here, unless you're just going to bring it back to the DDA and then say, here's what they suggested. These guys are flying in. So I'm just
Yes.
thinking like, this is an opportunity for everyone to have kind of a say in what's going on.
Well, wasn't that the beginning of the project, Steve Thoreau? I mean, wasn't the
Yeah.
public portion a part of the beginning? So that portion, we're in a different phase now. And you're right, Barb. The next step would be, if there is something, it would absolutely come back to the board. But right now, this is him administering the contract and working with the committee is kind of how I see it. There's not, you know, other people going through other than, you know, us trying to get CDOT and town staff. It's really about how to get this done this year.
And really, it's to verify the places, you know, the site locations that we've been talking about in previous meetings, and which were on the map, you know, in the last couple presentations that we've done. So it's really just validating them through merge and potentially CDOT. We might, you know, try to have their input where they have the right, where we're in their right of way. So it's really just a matter of visually, you know, certifying them all and seeing that there's no complications or conflicts with the locations that we've already decided on.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a feasibility analysis to, like, it's one thing to look on a map and put a spot there and say that's a great place for a sign. And then you get to that location and is it feasible to put a sign there based on the actual details of what you see? My concern about adding more people to the entire thing is that John already mentioned that he's available on Thursday morning if things take longer, but it would be really unfortunate if we're unable to get through all of the locations, because that's the meat of what we're trying to do in this. And I'm also, you know, I got my day blocked and was planning on being there. If other people want to join for part of it, we could also, you know, have one person who's there. And I'm happy to leave for a portion of it, Barb, if you want to pop in and see what we're doing or something. But
I don't think it's that, Steve. I just think that it should be like, this is a big deal. I've been on the DDA for 3.5 years, and this has been in process for 3.5 years. So I guess I would like to see what the plans are with this company. We've been paying a lot of money to design our wayfinding. I would like to, you know, have the opportunity to walk around with them. And I feel like the BOT might have some people that might want to have that opportunity as well, without maybe giving input, but just to walk around as they did with the bridge project and said, these are the options that we have available, and these are things that we could do. And then maybe you give feedback after. But I would like to understand, you know, where they're coming from and what the sites are. As we've seen them on a map, but we haven't really, like, they haven't seen these sites to say, hey, a sign would work here, or it wouldn't. So I guess I would like to have the option open for other people to participate in this, because it is a big deal that they're coming here from out of state to do this walkthrough. And I would like to invite the BOT or other DDA members. And I think it's a very simple thing to publicly notice that this meeting is happening and allow people to come and participate while being quiet and respecting that they have a certain amount of time. Everyone has a certain amount of time, but these are the options that they're presenting to us. So that's just like me wanting to understand it. I was on wayfinding for quite some time, and I would like to open it up to other people to participate in the process now, instead of 3 months from now presenting something and everybody says, oh, whoa, wait a minute, hold on, and doesn't agree with what we're doing.
But I don't think that's what this is about, though. It's the exact locations that we've all been looking at on the map, and what John's going to be doing is photographing them and, you know, getting exact locations and seeing what the ground is like around there and lines of sight as you approach, you know, in vehicles, so that it's a matter of, will it be in this exact spot, or will it be 3 feet away or 7 feet to the left? You know, it's not something that's open for discussion as far as should we have this sign or not. You know, that's what we've been working on, is that everybody that's on the project and the board here has all agreed that these, you know, these locations in general make sense. And now we're just trying to pin it down to, you know, where exactly, like the exact spot, GPS, so that we can move forward and document that. So what I worry about is if it's, you know, brought up, like noticed, and that anyone can join, we're going to have people there saying like, wait, you know, what are we doing with signs? I didn't know we're doing signs. And, you know, that's not what this is about at this point. I feel like,
I'm agreeing with you that that's not what it's about, but I'm also saying that there is somebody from town hall that deals with sign applications that should be there. And I believe that there are probably a BOT member or two that might want to be there. And what I'm asking is, should we publicly notice this so that our DDA and BOT members could participate in the walkthrough to see what's happening? I'm not saying that there has to be feedback. I'm just saying, like, this is a big step for us, as we've been waiting over my term of the DDA for this to actually move forward. And maybe other members want to be there. And if you don't publicly notice it, then we're in violation of sunshine law. So should we just publicly notice it so that anyone on the DDA or the BOT could attend? And you might get 1 or 2 stragglers that come in and say they want to attend. But should that be an option?
okay. I mean, I think that's okay. The chances are that we're not going to have a gaggle of people, you know, that want to discuss and, you know, figure out on each sign whether we should have it and what it should say, and should it be here, or should we even be doing signs? You know, that's what I'm worried about, is that we really get off track, and John from Merge, you know, ends up having to manage a group of people whose expectations are that they're having input on this as far as, you know, what signs should be where, because we're beyond that point. You know, we've come to the point where the board that's in charge of it here, the full board, has all approved these general sign locations, and all we're trying to do is set them. So I think as long as you don't, you know, have people's expectations that this is going to be a meeting about signage and what should be on these signs and should we have this sign or not, you know, then I think it's fine.
I have a comment, if I may, and that is, I really think you should have somebody from CDOT in your tour if you haven't got them already, because if you're planning on putting anything in there right away, or even remotely, you want to get them in early, because they get their nose out of joint. We had a directional sign right by the motel before they put up those pedestrian walk signs, and CDOT just summarily came along and took it down. So it's a must to have CDOT involved, I think, in this walkthrough if you're going to try and put anything on there right away. Please do that.
Yeah, Miranda, I think, has been kind of spearheading the coordination with Kate as far as getting CDOT, you know, if they can get there in the morning. John was going to rearrange the plan for, which signs we'd address so that we do the ones that are in the CDOT right away when CDOT could be there. And I see that Scott's hand is up too. If
Yeah, Scott, you want to
Yeah,
speak?
thanks, guys. Barb's point, I think, is a really, really valid point. And I can also understand how being this far down the road on this project, you don't want a ton of new feedback from people that have just not known anything about it, because you just don't want that to happen. So is there a way that you could more than a couple people on this, but have us call it a special get together or a special session where feedback is not being taken, public feedback is not being taken on this? Is that possible?
If you notice it as a public meeting and you say this is only a walkthrough, no feedback will be taken, as a work session, for instance, where
Yeah.
we don't take any public input, it would seem like that would maybe be a way to go, where more people could just do the walkthrough and check it out, see what they're talking about.
I bet you would.
And they
Yeah.
only give feedback to Steve or Kate.
I'm fine with that. If I just didn't want to have it so that, it's noted that anyone from town is welcome or anyone is welcome, and, we're going to have feedback and people are going to be giving us their ideas or whatever, because that's just not what it's about.
I get it, Steve. I totally understand what you're saying. So maybe let's shoot for call it a working session or something like that.
Okay.
No feedback, but it's a walkthrough only, something like that. So we can actually, people who want to see the project can see it where it is. The BOT
Yeah.
and the NDDA, right?
I'm fine with that as long as that, the expectations are set that way. And Barb, I agree with you. It's nice if other people, other board members wanted to join us or the BOT, then like you said, then we're doing it officially and that's the proper way. I just didn't want to have it be where people are, coming to it thinking that this is the time to give feedback about wayfinding.
Right. I think it's very important to say this is the decision that has been made, and we're going to walk through this. And it's simply a walkthrough, and I guess call it a work session so that it's a legal, gathering of people, so that if BOT wants to come, or if Tanya wants to come, who's BOT and DDA, and just do the walkthrough, they can really understand the project, because this is feet on the ground making it happen. And we don't want to get another 3 months or 6 months in and have this great, huge amount of people arguing against what we're doing, when there's really nothing they can do at that point. But oh my gosh, we will get the pushback, as we do with anything that we do in town. So I think it's an important public process to say, hey, this could happen. You could walk through. We're not taking any feedback, but you can see where we're going to put these things, and that's it.
Yeah, okay. I'm fine with that. And I'm mostly fine with it because then it allows anybody on our board and the BOT to walk along. So I think that's fine as long as we state it in a way that we're not, that people don't come to it thinking they'll give us feedback or have a say in what we're doing.
Anyway.
At least we can let them know it's a working session.
Yeah, working session during the day. Good outcome.
Yep. Great, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments about wayfinding? Hearing and seeing none, it looks like we will move to the TIP project. And Miranda, are you presenting that?
I sure am. Yes. So when you all met, and I'm sorry I wasn't there, Mark and Britt were obviously here to talk to you about the paving of the visitor center parking lot. And I think for us, kind of historically have operated, maybe not historically, but maybe recently under this new team, have operated under the assumption that the DDA really wants to serve as project managers on anything you fund. And maybe that was an inaccurate assumption. So long story short, we're very interested in paving the visitor center parking lot. If you've been over here, it's in rough shape. We also recognize that the impact of the sidewalk on this side of the TIPS project is minimal to the parking area. And so we would like to have an opportunity to split it, where we tackle the visitor center now and we do Jefferson next year, because a lot of the paving, grading, drainage work is set to happen under TIPS. So I think, again, our ask of you last time was like, do you support that? Or do you want to kind of serve as project managers and secure those quotes? I met with Kate, Barb, and Andrew, and the outcome of that meeting was more like, you know, we released the 139,000. You all can serve as project managers. There's no more funding on the table. You know, you kind of just you make that 139 work for both projects. And so I think tonight I'm just looking for maybe full board consensus that you do agree that you've provided us with this 139,000, and we can go ahead and go forward in whatever way we feel makes the most sense, which is paving the visitor center now and Jefferson next year. And kind of just that you're giving us that nod of 4, that green light to continue forward. We have secured 3 estimates. Unfortunately, I only have one back that puts the visitor center parking lot at about $89,000. Edge is another contractor who came out today to bid it. And the hope was that maybe if it was Edge, they would do it at the same time they were finishing out the Big Springs parking. And then I am waiting for a 3rd estimate from a guy who came up last week. So we are following our procurement process to try and find the best and most appropriate bid. But I think kind of, yeah, my ask, I know this is informational, I really would just like that quick nod of 4 that yes, you agree with our plan. The other thing that Barb and Andrew asked is just a little historical context of how this 139 came to be. So I included in your packet the agenda information memorandums for when Chris Pelletier came and asked you for the funds, as well as kind of the final portfolio that happened after you went through the Nederland public process, in hopes that that provides a little more context of how the DDA got involved in this project and what you agreed to fund at that time. And we really have earmarked these funds just purely for the paving projects. So I welcome any questions. I think Scott has one.
Great, thanks, Scott. Did you
I'm
raise your
sorry.
hand?
I just forgot to put my hand down. I'm sorry. Here's my question. How do I get my hand up? Oh, never mind.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Miranda. This is great information, and thank you for sharing it and for meeting with Kate and Andrew and I. I think it pretty much answered all of the questions that I had. I'd be super excited to see this go forward, as that is the biggest complaint I hear from people is the visitors center parking lot.
And Barb, maybe I can just add one thing. Not only is the impact of the sidewalks minimal for TIPS on this side, but also recognizing if we try to tackle 2 large-scale paving projects in the summer of 2024, that's going to be really tough on the community and the businesses, where if we don't have to really touch the visitor center lot while we're doing the rest of the construction, that would be ideal. We'd rather not shut down the visitor center, Jefferson, and RTD. You know, we'd like to at least have some areas that are still open. And I think that's also a big reason of why we feel like now is the right time to do the visitor center, to stagger the impact.
That makes a lot of sense. And obviously things are constantly shifting within town, and getting one project out of the way, as we did with Big Springs and other things, would be incredible for the community. Does anyone else have any questions or comments about the TIP project? I don't necessarily, do you need a nod, Miranda, or what are you looking for?
Not necessarily. I think obviously when we walked away from our meeting, we knew you and Andrew are on board. And I guess I would just love to hear from any DDA members if you have concerns about us just, acknowledging the funds have already been released under a resolution, like we're ready to go and we'll serve as project managers. One thing we did talk about with Barb and Andrew and Kate is that I would give you updates in my staff report about where we are and what's happening, as well as a financial accounting. And I'm completely happy to do that. And I'll even pull it separate from the staff report as its own document, and just keep you posted as we go, since we will serve as that kind of main point project manager.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the board? Hearing and seeing none, I would consider that to be consent that the board is happy to go forward with the process of having the town manage the project, and we look forward to seeing the visitor center parking lot done.
Yes, same. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Miranda. All right, and Miranda, is Peter presenting Reimagine Destinations?
Peter is gonna do, and so we did do Reimagine Destinations before the Board of Trustees. We have kind of, Peter amended it a little bit, so it's not as long, but if you want the full version, we encourage you to watch the last Board of Trustees meeting. Peter?
Yep, I can do that. Yeah, let me just share my screen real fast. All right. Okay, can everyone see that?
Yep, we got it.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm just going to do an overview of the Reimagine Destinations program and where we ended up at the end of our last consultation meeting with the CTO, the Colorado Tourism Office, and just, yeah, basically where that has left us, what the scope of the project was, and next steps. So, for those that aren't aware, last year we applied for the Colorado Tourism Office's Reimagine Destinations grant, which we did receive. And the yeah, there. Sorry. So the background was to kind of assess where we were as a town in terms of tourism management and identify any priorities that we as both a community and as tourism stakeholders thought were important to address, and then establish a structure to kind of take over the management of tourism, at least from a town side, and focus on those community values that we identified. So the result of this was to kind of establish a framework for town to work towards managing tourism in the future with a focus on our community identity, quality of life, and the protection of our surrounding public lands. This wasn't necessarily a project meant to just bring in more tourism, but to manage what we have and kind of organize things so we're in a better position in the future as more people come up here. The Reimagine Destinations grant consisted of a destination assessment. Basically, they would just go through everything and see who was coming up here, why they were coming up here, and what we as a community were hoping to showcase and get to people coming up to Nederland to understand about our community. There was also a full day workshop with tourism stakeholders and community members that we did last November, where we had about I think it was 17 or 20 people come, and it was just an all day workshop focused on what priorities we wanted to see moving forward. After that began our 100 hours of consultation with CTO, which is what just ended 2 weeks ago. There is also a $20,000 creative asset production shoot that is still being organized, and we are on a wait list along with other municipalities. So that is about, I think they said 18 to 24 or 48 months out. So we're looking at not 48, 24 months out. So we're looking at about a 2-year wait before that even begins. So what came from that was first identifying what tourism means to us and what that looks like. So it was really focused on just where we are in the peak to peak as a gateway to all this, open space around us, while also being a community with mining roots and a culture of music and art. According to the CTO's destination assessment, we saw 6,600 vehicles on average come through Nederland in 2020, and we're expecting to see that go up steadily to around 7,300 by 2030. So there is nothing kind of stopping people or stopping us from just kind of growing as a tourism destination. Because of where we are placed on the peak to peak and our proximity to Boulder, it is very attractive as both a kind of a weekend getaway for locals or as a destination for people coming from out of state. One thing that, came from this was my position, actually, the public engagement manager. Initially, it was they were looking at this as a specific tourism management role, but that didn't really work just where we are as a town and kind of what I've been doing as well. So we had to modify it a bit to fit more of a community role and not just managing tourism. And another thing, just because of the size we are, we don't really have a budget right now. We don't have a dedicated funding source directly for tourism marketing and management. So anything we're going to do is going to be community focused and very hands-on and kind of grassroots. So we don't really have an approach to tourism right now. So having a management structure is very important. I feel that for at least a little while now, our approach to tourism has been kind of reactionary, filling in gaps as needed. But that is one of the things that we would be looking at with a approach to tourism management. This would let us get ahead of any changes that we're seeing in trends and not just let the demands of tourism kind of dictate what direction we are going in as a town. And the first step for that is to figure out who our DMO was. It was decided during our workshop that town would take center stage in that in a lot of aspects, not all, and would work as a facilitator for various aspects of visitor management, marketing, research, and connecting with different community organizations and stakeholders. DMO means Destination Marketing and Management Organization. So having town in that role, while not uncommon for a municipality our size, isn't something you would see in a larger city like Boulder. But it does put us in an interesting place where it allows us to facilitate with so many different groups and aspects of tourism. This was the proposed management structure for our DMO. So it would start with our board of trustees and trickle its way down from that to Miranda, to me, to our visitor center and any other community volunteers we have. Where I am at in the middle, I would be the one working with any marketing consultants or any other grant organizers like the Colorado Tourism Office, as well as a potential tourism advisory subcommittee This was another thing that was suggested by the CTO through Reimagine Destinations. They've seen good work come out of that in the past, and they have suggested that we have one work under the fold of ProSab instead of, say, DDA or SAB, because it's more all-encompassing because of where we are situated and having a lot of tourism going out into open spaces. That advisory subcommittee would probably have about 7 members, but it wouldn't meet on a monthly basis like a regular advisory board. Probably only meet quarterly or so, just as tourism seasons are wrapping up and planning out what we need to look at coming in for the next season. And ideally, it would be made up of a variety of different people, like a local business owner or two, nonprofits, someone from outdoor, a member of ProSab, someone that has a history in like event marketing and producing. And the goal would be to kind of look over everything that we're doing and see where we need to plan and what kind of strategies have been working and what we're hearing from the community, and if we need to change any directions that we are moving. They would also work to support any other branding initiatives or grants that come down the way, and with that creative asset shoot when that becomes available. They would also support in any marketing strategies that we are looking at. And that is what, if you see on my slide here, it says support Do Nederland Right. That is one of them. And I'll get into that a little bit later as well. A main aspect of this is also to plan our tourism around things that we've already been working on, especially looking back at Netherlands' Envision 2030 plan and seeing how tourism can support those pillars that we already looked at. There wasn't really a specific tourism subcommittee as part of Envision 2030, and doesn't really need to be, honestly, but I do feel like it can slide into other parts of that plan, like community engagement, economic development, and environmental sustainability, as those were some of the main focuses of our resident sentiment surveys and other stakeholder surveys as well. That was a lot where we got feedback. So we'd want to look at that first and use that as our foundation when it comes to planning out a way to manage our tourism. So the Do Nederland Right campaign, that's a marketing campaign that came out of this, that the CTO put together for something for us to look at. It is based on their own Do Colorado Right campaign. We discussed this a bit during our workshop, and a number of names for something like this came up. They just put Do Nederland Right on it because it's the basis of what they've been doing. A lot of other cities have their own, like Do Telluride Right, things like that. So that's not like, none of this is set in stone. This was just a suggestion that they put together. Their Do Colorado Right campaign was launched during COVID-19 to educate travel restrictions and safety, and it expanded as the project took hold to just making sure people are aware of things such as backcountry safety, car-free transportation, checking on local fire bans. And when they've come up with these plans for other municipalities, it was more to focus on the needs of those communities. So Our first thing that we did was to identify what priorities we wanted for this campaign. And so that was, we hosted core team meetings with our 17 or so various stakeholders from around the community. We had our big workshop, and we also sent out two and a half different kinds of surveys. We had our resident sentiment survey, if anyone remembers the Reimagine Netherlands survey that we sent out last year. We also sent a specific tourism stakeholder survey to businesses and nonprofits and other community projects that had different focuses. We also did a kind of a one-on-one questionnaire with different area land managers, like the Forestry Department or Boulder County or Eldora, just to kind of get their views as being kind of stakeholders, but outside of our town, but still affected by people coming through. All right, from the resident sentiment survey, we asked a number of different questions, such as, like, what do you think your greatest attribute is? What do you want visitors to know before coming? And what do you want them to take away? And that really focused on natural beauty, public lands, nature, outdoor, so kind of everything around us, that we are a central location for both public lands and other towns and cities along the peak to peak, that we have a sense of community, and that we are kind of a small, unique community with kind of mountain grit, while also, having a thriving arts and culture. We wanted to, let everyone know that people are welcome, that that we want to show a respect for nature, wildlife, and that we are a small town and supporting local is important for us. And we want them to leave with a deep respect for everything that we hold dear. And that was very much an overwhelming consensus. There wasn't really any big split on that aspect. From the tourism side, we were kind of asking them what kind of similar questions, but with more of a focus on what they want to see people, or sorry, what effects tourism has on businesses in the area and where their concerns lie. Actually, this isn't the right slide, so I'll kind of just go through it. And concerns were most focused on things such as like cost of supplies, retaining staff, and kind of the overall town sentiment towards tourism, and that they wanted to see priorities such as encouraging responsible and respective use of town and open space. So again, that kind of goes back to what we saw in the resident survey. Building kind of a local awareness of the value of having tourism coming through, and not just have it be something we have to suffer through as a town. While also promoting off-season tourism opportunities. All right. When we did our one-on-one for land managers, that was mostly focused on things outside of the town, but were still very important, such as wildfire risks, trash, and traffic was a huge one as well. So it's a lot of the things we're seeing kind of across the board. So it kind of gave us a really solid direction on where we wanted to kind of put our efforts and where we'd want to build up our tourism management structure. And from that, these are the themes that came in, that CTO put together for Do Nederland Right. So it's do Ned car free, get to know us, respect the rules, Be careful with fire, trash the trash, stick to the trails, and keep wildlife wild. And again, that's just a initial thought that they came up with. They also create a large messaging plan and matrix. The link should be in this presentation, which is also included in the packet. If you can't access that for any reason, though, we can make sure to get that email to all the board members. So one of the things would be to also look at this, see if it still holds up, see how we would want to modify it, if we want to modify it, and when pushing that, when and where pushing that out would look like. So for our next steps, we would be looking at convening that tourism subcommittee and having them kind of explore those initial steps of tourism management, as well as any branding initiatives and that creative asset shoot when it becomes available. And there are also additional supports from the CTO to look at. Destination Blueprint is another grant opportunity that we are going to be applying for. It is similar to Reimagined Destinations and kind of acts as a next steps. Now that we have like a general idea, it would be building out that that framework to really expand upon. They also have different various marketing match grants and GovCon, which is coming up, which is a governor tourism workshop that happens in September to look at. And then after that, it would be looking at the Do Nederland Right campaign. So that is all I have. That is Reimagined Destinations as it stands today. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Great, thanks, Peter. Does anyone have any questions or comments on the board? Not seeing any hands. Is there anyone else?
This is Danielle. Peter, thank you so much for the presentation. These look like really great things, and some of the stuff that you brought up, I even took pictures of to share because this sounds awesome for our town. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anyone else have questions or comments?
Thank you. Just to thank you, Peter, for the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Peter and Miranda. You're not looking for any information from us tonight, correct?
No, we are not. Just, I guess, just the kind of the continuous feedback as we move forward. I feel like this is not the last time you'll see some of this work, and we do hope to continue to collaborate with the DDA or the chamber and other organizations. Just this is kind of step one in what I expect is a long journey related to kind of, you know, not just tourism, but really just that acknowledgement of what is Nederland, who is Nederland, what does it mean to do Nederland right? There's just a lot more conversation to come.
Great, thank you. I'm just going to chime in for 1 second before we finish this topic and say Do Nederland Right is still a childish concept, and I would love to see something else come forward that represents who we are as the businesses of town. Overall, I think there is a better way to represent us as a community and especially as a business community. I said that at the BOT meeting and I say it again now. I do believe that it would be great to communicate with the chamber, since the chamber is actually who should be running this instead of the town, because the chamber would have businesses represented instead of the town running a concept that is really geared towards the businesses of Nederland. So those are my comments on this specific topic, and that's it. Are there any other comments or questions? Otherwise, we will move on to the next section of our meeting, which is board elections and committees next step.
All right. So, yeah, per the NDDA bylaws, elections are to be held each July for the following positions for a one-year term: the chair, the vice chair, and the treasurer. If any board members are interested in running for these positions, please reach out to me as soon as possible. And also, tomorrow you're going to be receiving a poll to gauge interest in committees for 2023. Now that we have done our annual board elections, and I'm really excited that Barb and Andrew are both continuing so that we can all continue the great work that we're doing as a board together. So I'm going to send out a doodle poll about interest in communications committee, performance space, public art, Riverwalk, wayfinding. And after I get all of your feedback, I'm going to touch base with you all individually so that we can kind of come together with those new committee positions. And then at our July meeting, we'll do our board elections, and then the committees will be finalized, which is typically what we do in July. So I just wanted to give the heads up on that and let you be looking out for that, because since, like I said, I'd like to get your interest first from the poll, and then I want to follow up with you each individually, so that when we come to the July meeting, nothing is a surprise and we're all on the same page, is my intent with that. So that's all I have for that. Does anybody have any questions?
When will you send out the poll, Kate?
Tomorrow.
Great, thank you. I have no questions or comments. Does anyone else? Hearing and seeing none. Kate, would you like to present July 2023 meeting?
Yes, thanks. So, due to the challenges in rescheduling our work session on the strategic plan, I want to close the July agenda to non-emergency items so that we can use the July meeting to complete our discussion on our strategic plan. The reason I feel this is so important is that this will really inform our budget discussion in August. And so that's why I kind of feel like time is of the essence. And with some other competing things and it being summer, I did think that the best way to move forward was to do it as a part of our July meeting. And then that way, when we go into our budget discussion, we know where the items are that we want to be funding versus referencing that like we do in past years. So I'm really excited about doing this strategic workshop with you all. And I think it's going to make the budget process a good one, but we need to get that budget process started in August. So that's the reason I'm bringing it like this. I know tonight we started talking about performance space. And so I want to keep meeting and talking with Andrew in that, because that may be something that's not even fully ready to come back yet in July. That may be something that is a more fleshed out item for discussion in August. I don't know. So that I think kind of remains to be seen. And I think if it comes up like that, then we can talk about, if everybody's okay, if our meeting is going to be basically from 6 to 9 in July, if we need to have that discussion with performance space. And it could even be a little bit longer depending on how much time we spend on performance space and that discussion. So I just wanted to bring those things up. And again, this is something I'll follow up with you each individually about. But if you know right now that you won't be able to be there in July, I'd love to know that. Or if anybody else has some other big feelings they want to talk about, now that you've kind of heard my side of things and why Barb and I kind of thought about this as the next best plan. But I would really love to hear any other feedback, or if there are going to be people missing, because that's my main concern is you all need to be there. We all need to be in person. And I just wasn't able to get a date where I could get a good group of people. And my hope is that having it at the meeting will help us have that.
Kate, I'm going to be traveling. So that's on the 14th, correct? That's our.
Is it on the?
No, I'm sorry. What date? Hold on.
Let me look it up
the
real quick.
12th.
The
It's
12th.
July 12th.
The 12th. I'm going to be out of the country from the 11th through the 19th, so I won't be at the meeting.
Okay.
I'll try and see if I can get on via phone. But I'm gonna
Nope. This is what I wanted to hear, and we can follow up, Andrew.
Okay. All right.
Okay, but thank you. That was what I just wanted to have a heads up if there was anybody that knew they wouldn't be around, and let's follow up when we're following up on performance space too, Andrew.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you.
This is
Also-
Danielle. Kate, I'll
Okay,
go
fair
ahead,
enough.
Steve.
I'll be on a family vacation at that time, and I might be able to log on. I'll be on the East Coast. So I think there's a decent chance I could, make it to the meeting, but I will be out of state on a family vacation.
Okay, okay. And I understand that. I know it's a hard time to be doing this, but I think, like I stated, my reasoning for it, and I think Nicole has a great process that she's worked through with other boards that I think just really will inform our budget process, but also really will have a big bang for town. That now, all these boards have gone through the same process and identified the things that they care about, and it's a better way for us to communicate. So it's bigger than just that, but it's just that's my thoughts about all that.
Okay, great.
And Kate, to clarify, that will still be the assignments of board positions, and because you say
Yes.
close it to everything,
Yes.
but that will still be what we just talked about.
Yes, those because those aren't huge agenda items. Those weren't going to take a amount of time. That's why I wanted to do the follow up with you in between the meetings, so that it's not, oh, hey, I put you all in these committees. How do you feel about that? You already know how you feel about that, and we're just, okay, this is what we're going to do and move forward. And I see Danielle.
Yep.
Yes, I'm leaving on the 5th. I should be back by the 10th, but just in case I'm behind,
Okay.
just a heads up.
Okay.
July 5th through 10th. Great. Does anybody else have a conflict with that particular date of July 12th, which is our next board meeting? Hearing and seeing none. I think we just need to approve that is the general consensus of the meeting, barring any emergencies. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
and like I said, I'll include this in my individual follow up with you each about the committees. We can see. But thank you all so much for your openness.
Great, thank you, Kate. Next, let's move to our action items. And our first action item is public art at the co-op, the mural design.
Yay! Art, 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 art. I'm gonna close my meeting. Oh wait, no, I should share the screen. I've been practicing this so I could share these with you. While I'm getting this ready, Kate, may you please read the aim?
Sure. Okay. Sorry, because I was ready to share. Here we go. Nederland Public Art Committee is presenting tonight Jessica Moon Bernstein's preliminary drawings for the Nederland Mountain People's Food Cooperative mural. The co-op mural has been adjusted to safety, monetary, and timely needs to a 6-paneled installation piece at 8 by 24 feet. Last month, the board gave approval to the committee to make adjustments as needed due to the scaffolding questions. Information on the adjustments are in the NED Public Art Committee report. The attachments are the pictures that Danielle is showing. Only one was in the packet because that was the only one I received, but there is some slight variations, and that is what Danielle is pulling up on her screen. And the question for the board this evening is, does the board approve of Jessica Moon Bernstein's preliminary design for the co-op mural?
Thank you, Kate. Does everybody see the images I'm sharing?
Yes, thank you, Danielle.
Excellent, you're very welcome. So here is the co-op, and we have gotten permission to move the Natural Foods Deli Bakery sign over as needed. This is the space that the 6 panels will take up. I like the location of it. We can adjust it if we wanted to. That's kind of small details, but I think that hits where people will view it from the road, from the community garden down here below. No, the community garden's the other side. But yeah, you can see it from the bridge, from the street, from the sidewalk, from across a little ways. This is the one that was in the packet. And these are the others. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The variations are subtle but significant enough that Jessica wasn't really sure which one was her favorite and is hoping that you guys will give some feedback as to which one we should choose. So I hope to hear from all of you on what one speaks to you the loudest. And especially if you like it well enough that we can move forward, or if there are any details or suggestions for minor changes. This is a preliminary. We would have to pay more if you wanted something completely different, but hopefully you like it enough. So questions or comments, please. May we go around the room?
Thanks, Danielle. Do you have numbers for the different ones? Like, how do you propose them? I see like the top one you're showing now is that 1, and then what's 2? Can you kind of share that as you scroll?
Sure. So this first one, she's got blue trees, the white dove, and chipita. That's number 1. Number 2, she has green trees, the large dove, and the sun with no image of chipita. Number 3, blue trees again with the dove, no sunshine, and chipita. Let's compare this one to the first one. They're the same. So I apologize. There are just these lower designs. That's the one she chose to show for scale. So correct me. This is number 1 with the green trees, white dove, sun, and no chipita. Number 2 is the blue trees, no sun, a white dove with chipita. Number 3, make sure I'm doing that right. Yeah, number 3 is blue trees with the sun, a white dove, and chipita. And number 4 is these trees are bigger. The sun is smaller than the other one, so it's a variation of all the elements there with the blue trees. I wonder if I can zoom out of this a little bit so we can see all of them together. I feel like I was able to before, but I don't remember how.
Danielle, are you able to maximize your screen there?
Well, I certainly just minimized it. Yeah, let me do that. I wish I could zoom out. No, that's not it. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a little delinquent on that.
Hey, Danielle, I just sent you an email that has it and that has all 4 that you could just open the email and make it wide.
All right, there it is, mural designs. There we go, right?
That's our email.
There it is.
Yeah, so we don't see chipita in there.
So if you
So it
there,
doesn't show the full
there they are.
compositions.
Hey,
Should I-
Danielle,
Huh?
this is Scott. Can I ask a question while you're
Yeah.
searching around in files? And this may sound like a silly question, but it seems like maybe we should talk about this. If we haven't talked about it in the past, has anybody done any type of research or asked anybody if any of the Native American groups or populations around Colorado or around Boulder County would have a problem or find any offense in having an image of Chipita on the wall?
Not that I'm aware of. The closest I have to that is talking with May Gerald, one of our community members,
Yeah.
who is part Native and has connections, and she was strongly for better representation. So anything that I've heard about it is they wanted better representation and acknowledgement. I've not heard anything in the other direction.
So that was what May said. this artist, if I remember right, she had a number of other pieces of work that she had done in the past in other communities that had Native American images in them, right?
Yes.
Was there any kind of negative feedback that she was aware of from any other communities?
Not that I have heard, but I could ask her.
Yeah, I don't want to take us down into down a tangent that we don't need to talk about. It's just as I look at these, I think they're beautiful, and I like this a lot. I just want to make sure we don't do something that is later perceived as a misstep.
Yes, I can respect that. I wrote it down in my notes to ask Jessica about Native representation. It does kind of go along with our park named after Chipeta, so
Yep.
maybe I could find out a little bit more information on that to see if there's a way to gauge any negative recourse to having her on a mural.
Yeah, am I being silly by even asking this? It's okay if you say yes.
I don't think any question's silly. I think it's to be smart, to be aware of repercussions. I do think that if there is a strong feedback of negativity, we could amend the mural easily enough. I would much rather see her image up there than
Yep.
play it safe and not, but I appreciate you asking it.
Okay. So you're taking feedback on how we feel about what we're looking at here?
Yeah, taking feedback, an overall yes or no, and I would greatly appreciate a preference for which one each of you feels more strongly toward.
Yeah. Well, I like all of these, but I for some reason I'm especially fond of the number 3 on the bottom left of the screen.
Excellent. And Kate, thank you for bringing these up so nicely.
Yeah, thanks.
Great, thank you. Do you want to go around the circle and just ask everybody what their preference is? Top left 1, top right 2, bottom left 3, bottom right 4? Does that work for everybody?
Perfect.
Great, thanks. Scott has voted on number 3, so mark a one person in number 3. And Steve Carreau, do you have a vote?
I also like them all, and I do have a preference for showing Chipeta if we find out that that's reasonable to do. But I don't really have any strong preference. I like all of them, so I wouldn't really have a vote right now.
Thanks, Steve.
Sure.
Andrew, do you have a preference?
I think either of the any of the ones with the blue trees. I'm not an artist, but I think with the green of the building and the green of the trees, I wouldn't want the trees to. I know it's different shades of green. Just thinking if they ever decide to repaint the co-op same green and it's fresher, it might kind of wash out the trees if they were going to be green. But maybe that's unreasonable to think. But
That's exactly why she turned them blue, Andrew. You're spot on with that.
yeah, so I think the bottom right, I like the bigger blue trees. That's my vote, or either of the bottom two.
Great, thank you. And Catherine?
Well, you make a good point about the co-op building being green, because otherwise I like the green trees better, but I like Chipeta's image being there. So I was going to ask whether or not there was a chance Chipeta's image could be put over the green trees, but I guess we need to make sure that the co-op doesn't repaint the building blue if we pick one of the blue trees, because we'll end up with the same problem there. They're all lovely. I couldn't be upset with any of them. I prefer the images with Chipeta. I prefer that Chipeta be in the images if that's possible. I do think that it's wise to show respect, and if there's family or a tribe or somebody that we can at least reach out to and say, we'd like to do this, here's why. Does anybody have an objection? I think that's just wise to show respect. And I also kind of like the larger trees better if I can't have the trees green. So, but any of them, I couldn't be upset with any of them being up.
Thanks, Catherine. And let's see. Sorry, I went down in a page and it didn't go all the way down. Andrew.
I think I voted already, but
You did?
yeah, it was the.
Oh, you did on number 4. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm writing my notes here. Ron.
I'm partial to having either one of the ones on the bottom left or right with Chipeta. I do like the bigger trees. I also would like to make the comment that I would hope that a plaque of some nature is put on the front of the building for people to read so they know who it is. Because the average person is not going to have any idea, and a little bit of the history of both the park being named after her and the mural being put up featuring her. So I hope that's part of the plan. That's my comment.
I made note of that, Ron, about the plaque being on the front of the building so people can more readily find it and read it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ron. And Steve Roundtree.
I think the bottom right one, the bigger trees, is
Number 4.
I mean, they're all so similar, but when you're looking at them together, I think that one looks really cool.
Great, thank you. Danielle, do you have a preference? Do you love them all?
I love them all. I agree with the green trees being too close to the building. I do love the blue. I'm partial to the lower left one. The composition leads into Chipeta beautifully, and the larger sun centered, which is you're going to be facing the rising sun, I think is really powerful on that building. And I like the dove up in the air. To me, that is more, it registers quicker than the dove in the trees. But I think I'm outvoted on this one. I like that though. I really appreciate you guys giving feedback.
I just want to say, Danielle, I did notice the dove after I cast my vote. I don't want to be swaying vote. Either of the bottom two would be fine. I'm okay with. I don't. It's too much responsibility to pick one.
I'm with Andrew on that. I think a lot of us feel like they're all, or my perspective is there's a lot of feedback that they're all amazing. I think some of this, like you're looking at the composition with a lot more thought than maybe the trees are bigger, which was my take. So I'm happy with either of the bottom ones.
Great, thank you. I think that's everybody on the board but me. I have to say that I would vote for number 1 only because I am extremely worried about copyright and whether or not we can actually print that image after what we went through to get the Vince Herman mural up. So that's a big question for me. Making sure that we have permission to do something and I know that the artist is ready to go. So I like all of them, but because of that, I have to vote for number 1.
Excellent. So I want to take this concern of Chipeta's image respectfully. And one of the things that's coming up in comparison with the musicians is we were dealing with people who are currently here, who are involved, who are dealing with plagiarism and copyrights because of their professions and marketing. Approaching Chipeta's image for me is different. I don't know where to start with that. So I will ask Jessica what her background is with it, her experiences with it. And again, I'll look into Chipeta Park and see what I can find there.
It's some
What kind of
just
time limit?
I just want to jump in on one thing about the images. Some Chipeta images will be in the public domain, which would make it safe for us. So I think one of the things we want to ask the artist, since she has used images before, is she pulling one from the public domain, or asking her questions like that, as well as the questions about the reception in other communities.
Excellent. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you. I think that probably gives you enough direction, Danielle, to kind of discuss it more with the Public Art Committee, and then make the decision based on the information of 1, 2, 3 people saying they're all great. 1 for 1, 2 for 3 or 4, and 1 for 4, if I'm counting my numbers right. Oh, and 1 for 3. So I think there's a lot of information there, and the big question is whether or not that's safe for us to do without any copyright infringement.
Right. So barring I run into a brick wall with infringement, are we able to vote tonight on moving forward, or should I wait on this?
I'm okay to vote with moving forward if everybody else is, but I think there's 1, 2. I mean, I think it's between 3 or 4. So if you had to pick between 3 and 4 only, what would the board feel? I like the bigger trees. So what is everybody else on that, to kind of give Danielle guidance on which direction to go, as long as there's no copyright issue?
You could make a motion that the board approves the uses of images 3 and 4 from the discussion, and barring any copyright infringement, that the Public Art Committee could move forward.
Would someone like to make that motion?
I motion that barring any copyright issues, the Nederland Public Arts Committee moves forward with either option preliminary drawing number 3 or 4.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thanks, Catherine. And Kate, would you take the roll?
Yes. Catherine Vallon,
yes.
Steve Roundtree,
Yes.
Scott Papich,
Yes.
Danielle Kraus,
Yes.
Steve Carreau,
Yes.
Andrew Dewar,
Yes.
Ron Mitchell,
Yes.
Barb Hart.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. And then Kate, you moved this. I'm
Yes.
sorry, from the beginning,
So-
so we're not having this tonight.
No, we're not. So as you saw from my email, and if you didn't see it, I'll recap right now. We've decided that the better way to move this forward is to do 3 separate resolutions that you'll see at our next meeting. And again, those are typically not items we spend a huge amount of time on, because we already kind of went through our discussion last month. But so you'll see resolutions for the three things broken out here. You'll see 1 for Riverwalk, 1 for Pump Track, and 1 for administration. And so we thought that that would be a cleaner way to move forward, and a cleaner way to move forward with the Board of Trustees. So that's why the change of plans, and why that's not tonight. And it doesn't put us back, because we're not actively trying to pay bills. So it's not, there's not something waiting on this, but we do want to get it done as soon as possible, because Pump Track will need a check, this summer to complete. So, so you look for that information.
Great, thank you, Kate. That being said, I would look to see if there is any other business this evening. If there is no other business, I would certainly entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second,
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone.
Yeah. Have a good
Have a
night.
good one.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Good night.